Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Case Study QB, and we are the political junkies back at it again. Hopefully, we got Kinverly, the Dicupe, coming on. Hopefully, she'll be joining us a little later, but I got my peoples in the building. Let me say what's up. Go around the horn. Bendo, what's going on?
Let's go.
Dome. All right, Carlito. Yeah. John.
Not much here, just catching up on this Indiana mall shooting. It's happened
Another
today.
one?
Just
Yeah.
happened today, I think, a couple hours ago.
Now,
Was
is today the first time a private citizen stopped it? Allegedly, not stopped it, but
Like, you mean more than the police?
yeah, because I think it was a 22-year-old that stopped that had a
No,
weapon.
Yeah,
that's
they
not the
say
first time that's ever happened, but it rarely happens.
All right, but I see our guests in the building. I'm gonna let me know. Give me a thumbs up when you're ready, Kimberly, to jump in the show. All right, but yeah, finish your thought.
Yeah, this is not the first time that has ever happened, but it rarely happens. Because I know the Republicans like to always say like the only way to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. But what usually happens is more that the good guy shoots the wrong person or shoots himself or it's something crazy like that. So it's rare that it happens, but it has happened before that. The person, like a good guy with a gun, stopped it. But more often, it's somebody without a gun tucks the guy down. That has happened more.
Interesting. I've seen where a good guy try to stop a bad guy, and the cops came and shot the good guy.
Yeah, so you're going to see definitely those gun owner advocate out. They always say like,
This is what we were talking about. Yet it completely ignored everything else that's happened in the world.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna play a video before we bring in our guests, and then after this after this video, we'll introduce our guests for the show. Boom. This is Hawaii. I think this happened yesterday.
Why are they standing there?
All right.
For the gram.
And you know that wasn't the first time a wave came over there. Probably the first time a big wave came. If they got their cameras out, you know they were being prepared for it.
running.
Here's the last one. So this is just an example of climate change.
Yeah, I'm looking. I was trying to see. Is it like no? I don't see no Dominicans there. There's no black people. Because you'd be like, oh, wave coming. Let me go back there.
Let me go.
I'll take a picture from the balcony or something.
With that said, let me ask Kimberly what she would do if she was in that predicament. Let's give a round of applause for Kimberly. Is in the building running for state representative in Rhode Island. Kimberly, what would you do if you were sitting over there, seeing a big wave coming over the wall?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have waited for the wave to hit me before I ran.
Exactly.
That's why I can't wait to see the movie, the new what's it? The Key and Peele guy. What's his name? I don't remember if it's Key or Peele. Nope. Yeah, because like I was talking to my daughter about like, look at this. If you see like a big alien ship, like what would you say if you're like, oh no, or hell no, or something like that? So like the movie title is perfect. Like you see something now, you're like, nope, I'm going the other way.
Yeah, that movie actually does look interesting. I want to check that out because the commercials, it makes it very mysterious. Yeah, definitely want to check that out. So with that said, Kimberly, I'm going to play a couple of videos, but let me introduce you. I want you to say hi to the people. And then we're going to go through some videos, and then we're going to talk about your campaign, and then we'll continue with the show. All right. But right now, I want you to introduce yourself. Let the audience know about yourself.
Yeah, hey guys, my name's Kimberly Dicupe. I'm running for state rep here in Rhode Island, Pawtucket House District 62. Sorry for my lighting. For some reason, my light bulb is going light and then a bit darker.
Nah, no worries.
I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
There you go. I'm like, I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, no worries.
You're live from the club.
I guess so.
Yeah. So how's the you know what, we're going to talk about your campaign. I want to get into you, but I first, just to let the people find out my connection with you, I first saw you on the Real News Network, on that Real News channel, and then I wanted to know more about you were in at the Rhode Island DSA. You were on the board there, and you talked on the channel. You came on the channel a couple times. You came on the Progressive War Room, and also talked to you about the People's Gauntlet. And I was very excited to hear that you were running for state rep. So definitely anything you need, I want to definitely support you as much as I can. And
Thank you.
so hopefully we want to hear your commentary on the show, and we're just gonna have some fun with it. All right. So let me bring in. I got some unorthodox videos that I'm going to play right now that we're going to do a reaction to. And let me bring it up right.
Okay.
So this is the first video from No Jumper
Number two,
podcast.
I just saw, I think it was, and I can't remember how much money it was. President Biden sending tens and tens of billions of dollars to the Ukraine. What's happening in the Ukraine is a fucking tragedy.
It's tragedy.
Yeah,
right.
it's
tragedy.
It's a fucking tragedy.
But speak, man. I know where you going. Come on, man. Bring this shit.
But you guys, we get to the point to where I'm starting to feel personally insulted. It's Ukraines everywhere. I grew up in the Ukraine. There's Ukraines in South Central Los Angeles. It's Ukraines in Richmond, Virginia. It's Ukraines in Jacksonville. It's places everywhere, but the people there are under siege by entities around them that seemingly are trying to kill them every single day. This is not at all me saying that what's happening over there is not a huge tragedy in the United States. What I'm saying is, you know who needs that money? People who need that money are people inside of communities to stop them, to give them better options from committing crimes. And also, I'll be honest with you, I would rather see us incentivize brothers and sisters, people, period, that come out of prison after they have come out of prison, so that they don't have to make the same decisions to go back in, right? But the real problem with that is, it's like anything else. It's a business. It is a multi-billion-dollar, nearly trillion-dollar business. There's a woman named Bianca Tylek who works at a place called Worth Rises. They tell you every single way that somebody is benefiting off all people being locked up. The phone calls, the food, the commissary inside, the transportation. It's a gigantic fucking business. And I'm not even talking about just the private prisons. Prison has already been privatized. The moment that you have to pay 3 times as much for a phone call going from Angola to Baton Rouge, that's privatized. Like somebody's making money. R-Mark.
I've talked about.
Yeah, so you guys get the picture. I really like this clip because here's No Jumper. They're not known for political talk. They're known for a lot of other things, but here's an example of people feeling the political atmosphere and the political climate and the things that's going on in the news. And people know over $50 billion was sent to Ukraine. And that's a ton of money. I looked up myself to see how much would it cost for free transportation in America, like free trains, free bus, like to be paid for. And one of the numbers that I found was in New York City. It said it would cost $18 billion for the year. $18 billion. We sent $53 billion to Ukraine like it was nothing. And here's an example. People know that, and this is under the Biden administration. And the question is, what's going to be the political consequences? Carlito.
Man, I could just keep nodding, but I like this because getting woke, man, everybody's learning in places where you typically don't hear the realities, that is everything's entertainment, keep us just all dumb and stupid. They're getting tired of it. They're letting people know it's like, man, this is not a fun and games. There's some things that they just don't make sense. They just don't make sense. So now, outlets like No Jumper, they letting the people, casual people that are not following the politics like us, start seeing something, think a little bit like, yeah, why is it like that? That makes no damn sense. So I like that.
Yeah.
Kimberly.
Yeah, I mean, it is good to have political conversations like that. I actually hadn't seen this particular clip. I didn't know No Jumper was doing more political content. But I think a
I
lot
think
of
it
the
was
issues
because
you
Van
mentioned.
Lathan was on there. He's more kind of in that sphere. Yeah, but go ahead, Kimberly.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with a lot of what he said. I guess like we have to take a look at what are our interests as the United States of America. And I think it's not in our interest to get into this kind of war that could cause, World War III. Like, it's not in our interest. While it's a tragedy, what's going on in the Ukraine, I'm not sure what role we're there to play. Like, the truth is, Ukraine is not a country that can withstand an attack from Russia. Russia is a far more powerful country. So if we want to win this war, the only way we could win this war is if we actually sent in our own troops. And that's just not an option. So then when we go from then on, then what is the purpose of sending all these weapons and all these things when we know the Ukraine's ultimately not going to be able to win this war? And all this money and all these weapons, who is it really getting to? Because we've seen some videos coming out of Ukraine where soldiers, don't have food, don't have the resources needed to actually wage war. So then who is using this money? Where are these weapons going? Because they also have, the battalion. Do we really weapons in the hands of these, even though technically they're on Ukraine's side and they're supposed to be our allies? I just don't want us to get dragged into a war where the end isn't clear. What's our end goal here? And, when getting into wars, we really need to be thinking about national interests. And this has nothing to do really with our national interests. I mean, this is a bigger issue for Europe than it is for us. We have a whole ocean that's between us and this war. I think a lot of our interests lie in Asia with the rise of China and their economy. I mean, that's really where we need to be putting our focus to, not so much, getting into this war that's going to cost us trillions if we continue. And then we don't know what we've accomplished because we didn't even set a real goal to meet.
100%. John, you wanted to jump in there?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that he made a good point on putting that money for people that get out of prison, right? I think the U.S. is the only country in the world that you serve your sentence and then you still classify as a criminal. Like, there's nothing, can't get a job, can't get a house, can't get anything. So it's like you usually go back. So we totally could use that money to make a difference as well. So it's definitely. I didn't think No Jumper will be political like that, but maybe I'll watch him a little bit more now.
Yeah, I got one more clip. But no, did you want to say anything before I go to this?
I was going to say, was it California, the one where they were paying gang members to sort of reduce their violence? Or there was an article a couple of months back that we were talking about.
Yeah, it was in all of California. It's like a one particular county that they were kind of as a diversion. But it wasn't just for like it would pay you money so you don't do crimes. They had to do things. So I don't remember all the specifics, but we talked about it. And they had to like either go to some classes or they had to do something to something positive.
All right, I got one more clip from No Jumper. We usually don't play the curses on the show, but I thought it was important to get these clips in.
It's a mind fuck, right? You take it, you strip you of everything. And you next to a tray, a cup that you can go refill your water with, something like that. And then you can come work in the kitchen. After being 8-9 months in there, you haven't really had any phone calls, your commissary's been low, and they tell you, well, you can work for 8 cents.
it's going to make you feel like you're doing something because they have already stripped your mind mentally.
Right.
They have stripped you from the dollar.
Yeah.
They have stripped you from the high brand clothes. They have stripped you from the fancy meals. So now once they have broken you all the way down, they know they can get you to go and work for 8, 9 cents. 10 cents. And I feel like it's sick, man, to do somebody like that. If you're gonna really rehabilitate a person, rehabilitate them. Give them the wage that you would give anybody else that's even working at a McDonald's, a Burger King. Okay, cool. Don't let them get rich. I understand. You know, but when you're already making $300 a day per head, you're telling me the people that you got working or doing things for you, you can't give them a $5 to $8 salary to where when they get out, they can actually take some of the money that they earned and they can go and do something with themselves. Or they want to continue to work because they're like, man, well, shit, I've been used to working, not sitting there making 10 cents, 20 cents to get by. It's a mind.
Yeah. So as you can tell, the theme is that they're talking about the prison system, and here is Sharp talking about basically how you can pay. They literally pay prisoners 8 cents an hour, and you know, to me, there's times you think about the minimum wage. Like, is the minimum wage necessarily? And matter of fact, right now it's so low, it's crazy. But it's like, oh, would somebody actually pay less than the minimum wage? Well, right now, you can see in this country right now, people are getting paid $7.25 an hour, which is super low. You can't live off of that. So you have other countries where they don't have a minimum wage, but that's because they have a strong union that their wages doesn't go below $15 an hour, right? So I just want to what you guys think about this game?
Yeah, I can't remember what state it was. There's two. Well, one on the positive, one on the negative. On the positive, there was I don't think it was the whole state, but there was somebody starting a program where they will actually pay felons actual, like, you know, the wage, like the going rate for whatever work they were doing. So that was positive. But on the negative, in California, they were trying to change the state constitution to take away, you know, that, you know, like make it mandatory for the people that are in jail to also make $15, because they changed it. You know, I don't know the scale, because, you know, they never put $15 an hour right now. It's like overtime, but they were trying to make, okay, well, how about felons? Let them get the $15 minimum wage also, and that failed because they were going to cost the state so much, many billions, if they had to pay them regular price. So
yeah, that reminds me of when Kamala was like defending they were the use of prisoners in the fire department. Like, I remember there was a story around that they needed the prison labor to fight the fires in California.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for it. That's great. I just wanted to get paid, you know, the same as everybody else.
Yeah, especially they're risking their lives.
And before, I think they fixed it. They changed the law, but also they were doing this work, you know, fighting the fires. But then when they got out of jail, they couldn't get that job because they had a record.
Mm-hmm.
Ain't that crazy? That's absolutely nuts. All right, I'm gonna play this last video. And John, you had something to say? Is that you? Okay, I'm gonna play this last video, and then we're gonna focus on my person, Kinverly here, and we're gonna go into her campaign. And basically, with the latest news today that was been bubbling up is how Joe Manchin has squashed again the Build Back Better, any resemblance of the Build Back Better. So I clipped a very good man on the street clip that is here, and I want us to hear how the West Virginians feel about Joe Manchin.
We wanted to hear from voters in Manchin's home state to see what they think of their senator's latest move.
I used to think that Joe Manchin was for West Virginia and for coal, but now I'm not so sure.
Will somebody go out of their way, like Senator Manchin, to hold us back and not let us move forward and think that's what the people want?
I think a lot of the climate crisis is just a made-up fairy tale, and it's not going to fly in West Virginia. As far as thwarting Joe Biden's plan, I think he simply follows his convictions with every decision, and I totally respect him for it.
He's the one rotten egging and spoils the bunch. I mean, you know, he's holding things up, so yeah, I'm not real happy with Manchin. It's all about negotiation. West Virginia, did you say they're hurting, they need help? Well, then help us. Quit talking about it and do it. Do something.
Just kind of looking at the state that West Virginia is in, it doesn't really look like Joe Manchin is doing much to help West Virginia economy-wise, in my opinion.
We'd rather he didn't work with Biden. We'd rather him keep going the way he was going before. We don't like him going nowhere near Biden.
As he wears a Trump hat.
Senator Manchin, stay West Virginia pride.
Okay, for more, let's bring in the.
All right. Yeah, so I mean, I would be curious to know what order that they interviewed these people, or even how many people were for Joe Manchin, how many people were against. Even I know the polling right now shows that he has high approval in West Virginia, but I think that's because the media in West Virginia is not really telling the whole story. That's what I think personally.
I don't think it's the media. I think this West Virginia loved the guy. They had him as a governor. They continue to put him as a senator, and when he runs as a Republican, they will still vote for him. So,
you think they know about his corruption, the stories in the intercept?
Absolutely. I mean, he's the one that probably keep telling them that Cole is coming back and that he's going to bring the job back, and while he's just making bank. Like,
look at all the money Cole produces.
For him? Yeah, I don't think so. No, man.
So people gonna believe whatever this guy tell them, and again, I think he goes back to always say, like, at one point we know that definitely the media has a narrative, but we also have to put some place on the people. Like, how can you continue to, like, when he was a governor, he was not really that great of a governor, and then you just promote him to be a senator, and you continue to vote for him. That's why he keeps saying, like, oh, vote me out. I faced election before. I faced challenger, because he knows that people are just going to continue to vote for him.
Kimberly, what you think?
Yeah, I guess, like, do we expect people to have different opinions when a different case hasn't been made? I mean, the case that the Democratic Party has always made about Joe Manchin is that he's so great. He gets along with the Republicans. He's a moderate. And even the progressives haven't really done much to, like, bring an alternative narrative to that issue, aside from, like, tweeting something out. But they haven't gone to West Virginia and talked to, like, the union workers there, the teachers, hold protests, hold rallies. No one has fought that narrative. So why is anyone surprised that that narrative is so dominant within everyday people in West Virginia?
Didn't Bernie go out there? The Bernie went out there.
Bernie has not gone out to West Virginia after Biden got elected.
Didn't they have that progressive challengers against her, but the progressive movement didn't back her up? What was her name?
Yeah, that's what happened with Paula Jean Swearengin. She ran the last time against Joe Manchin, the other senator other than Joe Manchin.
But this isn't something that can be done in, like, one election. We're talking about changing people's minds, meaning you need a consistent narrative, constantly hitting these doors, constantly talking to people. That's how you change people's minds when it comes to politics. But this is not going to change because you ran somebody so great and so awesome in one election. Everyone just woke up and realized that they were wrong. Like,
but not
change
only
doesn't
that,
happen that way.
Yeah,
Jordan Sheridan reported that the local Democratic Party worked against Paula Jean Swearengin. Like, she got the nominee rightfully to run against a Republican, and then she got zero support from the Democratic Party in West Virginia. So it was not only that she needed support and she needed to bolster her name and get her name out there. They did counterproduction when they didn't support her, and they sabotaged her. Jordan Sheridan did a great man on the ground. He talked to people, activists on the ground there, and they revealed what happened. So it's a whole nother level of corruption over there, unfortunately.
Well, because the Democratic Party is really invested in this idea that only super corrupt politicians can, like, hold a red state as a Democrat. So we need the Joe Manchins of the world, even though they're terrible, because they're the only people who could hold these certain, states. If somebody like Paula Jean Swearengin, were to win, that would blow up their entire, theory of getting elected, which is exactly what they don't want, because Joe Manchin gives cover to the other, to the Democratic leadership. Like, who is honestly thinking that Joe Biden was that passionate about passing the BBB? You really think that Joe Biden wanted to pass his own legislation? No, he didn't. All right. Joe Manchin's just like the boogeyman that they tell you, oh my God, we can't pass this really awesome thing because Joe Manchin exists. but they have powers to punish Joe Manchin. They can take off committees. They can go straight to his state and organize Democrats who are there against him. They can do a lot of things, but they rather have Joe Manchin running around doing everything that he's doing because that gives them the excuse to go back to the people and say, listen, we wanted to do something, but unfortunately this villain came up out of nowhere and now you're not going to get anything. It's the perfect excuse. They use it every election.
100%. Let me just give a shout out real quick, and then I'm going to go to John. Shout out to Abel Martinez in the chat, Holly Horn, Miguel H. Much love to you. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I was going to say I agree with Kimberly. That's why, like, you know, if the Democratic Party really cared, they would have removed him out of his. This guy is the chair of the Climate Change Committee. Like, that's just like that right there is first red flag, right? Biden, we said it in previous show, right? Biden gave his wife a position that she make like 200 something thousand. If they really care, they would have went out. Like, you know, sometimes politics, you got to play dirty politics. When we did that article about his daughter, all the corruption she did with the EpiPen, they should have went after her. The DOJ should have went after her and put pressure on her and said, well, you either play ball or we're going to go after. And they don't do any of that. So that's why Manchin knows that he could just say, vote me out, or, you know, do whatever you want, because he got to 2024. Schumer's not going to do anything. Biden's not going to do anything. So he's free. You know, he's free to do whatever he wants.
Right. All right. So at this point, I want to dig into Kinverly's campaign. I want you to let us know how you're doing. What's going on? What's the prospects? Let us know how's your campaign coming along, Kinverly.
We've been doing good. We just made it onto the ballot. So that was a tough week. We had to collect signatures, but we finally made it onto the ballot. We've been hitting the doors nearly every day. And yeah, things have been going decent despite the fact that I started a little bit late due to the gerrymandering issue that I had earlier on. So as soon as I found that apartment, I got ready. And yeah, right now it's just hitting those doors till election time.
How's the machine? Okay, go ahead.
The machine. Well, interesting is, like, you know, Pawtucket is one of the larger cities in Rhode Island, but I still didn't think that they were going to prioritize my race. However, I guess they hate me because they are prioritizing my race. They don't want me to win. The incumbent has been there for 10 plus years without any challengers. So they prioritize my race as somebody to defeat. So we're just hitting the doors as hard as we can and seeing where it goes come September. But I don't know. We've been able to defeat all the obstacles so far that they've thrown my way, especially with that gerrymandering situation. The folks, I think I've spoke about it before on this podcast, but I had announced to run for office in November, I believe. And then the week after, I was cut out of the district. Like, they didn't waste any time getting rid of me. Wow. And so I had to literally move back into my district in order to run because they had moved me into a district that already had a progressive. So I basically was locked out of running unless I was able to move. And here in Rhode Island, we have a huge, huge housing crisis. So it was incredibly hard to try to find like an apartment because the rents are up. They need everything: references, credit score, your volunteer resume. Like, they need everything in order just to give you some housing. But we're trudging along. And we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that same thing's happening in New York City where they have de Blasio and Monia Jones. They're running in the same district for the House, and they did redistricting also in New York City. I want to ask you, how's the support from? I know you work closely with the DSA, the local DSA chapter, and you know you help out an Afro Soc chapter as well. And I don't know if you working with the Rhode Island Cooperative that's also in the state, but let me know how's that progressive infrastructure helping you.
Yeah, so I'm a part of the Rhode Island Cooperative, political cooperative. They've been really able to set me up with like a campaign plan, budgeting plan, a ground game plan, like the basics that you need for office. They've been able to cover for me, and also just that support of understand something. Like working class person, I've never ran for a day of my life. So there's a lot of stuff that you come across that you don't know what to do with this, whether it's like paperwork or certain deadlines. So it's helpful to have people that you can call whatever time of day and be like, hey, I don't understand this. I need you to walk me through it. Because a lot of this stuff, I mean, you wouldn't know unless you already ran for office once, or you have like a team of people who like have ran multiple campaigns before. But as far as the DSA, I love the DSA. They've been very helpful. They've done big canvases for me, and they're going to continue to help me out. We've had quite a few DSA members come out and support us, and just like other organizers and activists who are active in different organizations also come out to canvas. So I've been able to build a decent volunteer base that can help me knock on those doors, especially since I started out later. So I need to like put lots of people on the doors very quickly to cover ground.
When is the date, the election date?
September 13th. Yeah.
My last question is how much support, as far as you have the DSA helping you out, and you have also the Rhode Island Cooperative. Like, let me ask you this question: when you get into office at the state level, what's your top priority? What do you plan to do? Because I always think of from the federal level, okay, Medicare for all, raising the minimum wage, but at that state representative level, what can you do?
Yeah, I'm running on 3 priorities. So a local Medicare for all, it can be done at the state level to cover everyone with healthcare. Building low income and public housing. I just finished talking about the housing crisis that we have. Like you could move into the hood and you're still going to be paying over $1,500, no utilities included. This is like getting out of control, and it's continuing to go up without any stoppage. But the wages aren't going up for people, so there's that. I think folks always talk about building affordable housing. I don't really like using that kind of word because it's very tricky, and legislators in the past have used affordable housing to build stuff that's not actually affordable. Like they'll use affordable housing that's affordable for somebody making $70,000, when we know the vast majority of people are not making $70,000. So I say we need to build specifically low income and public housing. Public housing especially, because I think people have this myth head that the market's going to be able to control these prices. It's never. That's why you need public housing. If you are offering public housing that's available to all, right, capped at 30% of their monthly income, this is quality public housing, meaning not some destroyed nonsense that is endangering people's health, whether it's through lead or bad water or, refrigerators that don't work, all that type of stuff. If we're offering low income public housing that's quality, we can compete with the private market and force those rents down. Because if they have to compete with an apartment that's of quality, that's available to everyone, and only costs 30% of what you make a month, guess what? People are going to want to live in the public housing. They're not going to want to live in a private apartment that's full of lead, that hasn't been renovated in like 50 years, right? Your front door doesn't even work. That's why building public housing is to me, is so critical, because I do believe that that is the only way that you can truly control the rents. You need to offer an alternative that's going to compete with the private market and force those rents down. And then lastly, I'm running on investing in education. We have a huge issue with charter schools in our state. The Democratic leadership has been on board the whole privatization of schools for a long time. And the way they do it is charter schools, meaning, they take the public schools' money and then they only serve a fraction of the students who actually live in that area. And the fraction of the students that they serve usually tend to be students that have a little bit better home situation, right? So they're able to do their homework well, they're able to concentrate on school. Students that may have, more intellectual capacity. They get to pick their group of students and use public money to do that. Which means the public schools that are available to everyone, right, and have to take every kid, then don't have the resources needed to meet every need. We need to pull back on those charter schools. Many of them are also created to fight the teachers' unions. I don't know, just around the country, teachers' unions have been under attack in this state as well. And one of the ways they can get rid of the union is building these charter schools. So it's a big priority for me to reinvest into our public education and put a moratorium on these charter schools. No more of these schools that really are just sapping away the community's resources. And I truly believe that education is for everyone. So when we're building a system that is kind of underpinning the charter school need, what we're saying is that we don't have enough to give everyone a great education, right? So that's why you're going to go into a lottery. And if you're lucky, then maybe you'll get to go to a charter school. If you're not, then you're going to go to the underfunded public schools. When the truth is, we have enough resources to take care of everyone. I think one of the greatest lies that most Americans, or a lot of Americans, ascribe to is that there's not enough. We live in the richest country in the history of humanity. We have enough money to do whatever we want. That's how wealthy this country is. Like, incredibly wealthy. If we really wanted, we could pimp out these schools. We could have classes that only have 15 students. We can pay these teachers good wages. We could stop feeding kids, you know, the amalgamation of shit that they're feeding kids nowadays and calling it food. I mean, we could actually feed people some vegetables. Offer priority for these kids who are growing up. We know nutrition is a big thing. We can do all these things. We have all the money that it takes, but we rather sell this myth of scarcity to people of, we don't have enough, so some of you are going to have to suffer. And that's just not the way that's not the way it is at all. If we were to, you know, tax these corporations, tax these wealthy individuals, we could build schools, renovate that are truly up to code. But that requires us to realize the amount of wealth that is in our society and where it should be going.
100%. Do you get support from unions, by the way? I'm just curious. And then John, I know John trying to get in here after.
I support unions. Obviously, I think unions are one of the most powerful forces in order to fight, you know, privatization and just the corporations as a whole and their ability to monopolize our economy. However, one of the issues that I've ran into is the union leadership. The union leadership is often very old. They're comfortable. They'll make over $100,000. They haven't been working class since they were 18. And these people are making the decisions for unions. So they're choosing to support corporate Democrats, right? People who are ultimately going to side with the corporation over them. But they've built these relationships with these corporate Democrats. And so they're willing to basically go to the mat to defend these very corrupt politicians from challengers that, according to their values, you should be supporting this. Sometimes I'm aghast at the fact that we have this young progressive movement, and yet many of the prominent unions don't seem to take advantage of the amount of young people who are now politically active. Instead, if you look at if you look at states like New York, they're fearing these movements, the movement within the DSA. They're fearing these young people. You know, they're saying that we don't know how to organize, we don't understand politics properly, instead of saying like, damn, we've been losing the fight against corporations for decades. Now a bunch of young people are showing up, they're politically engaged. How do we get these people so we can fight to create more unions, stronger unions? That's not what they're saying. Instead, they're saying, damn, look at all these young people. That's the enemy. We got to keep those dinosaurs at the State House.
100%.
And that is the main issue when it comes to the older unions. Even if you look at ALU, I mean, how many unions were helping ALU before they actually won that drive? I mean, the word around town is that many unions were saying that Bernie and AOC and other progressive politicians shouldn't have supported them because they didn't know what they were doing. I mean, those were the rumors that were going around, that it was, you know, prominent labor organizations who were saying we shouldn't support ALU because they don't know what they're doing. And yet, these people were able to win. This is what they don't take opportunity.
Yeah, 100%. I think even in Nevada, it was the union leadership that was working against Bernie, while the members were the ones in favor of Medicare for all, and they were the ones that delivered Nevada to Bernie. John, I know you want to jump in here.
Yeah. I was gonna say a few things. The point Kimberly made, right? It's like the media always have the narrative, right? When we come to school and anything, how are we going to pay for it, right? So it's always, that is true. It's always about fear. Every time you talk to someone, whoa, if we get free colleges, who's going to pay for that? But we go in and give, anybody to. Did we have money for war? We have money for corporation. We have money to bail everybody out. But when it comes to everyday people, it's always how do we pay for it? And then I think it was a case study QB clip I think I saw on Twitter where they talked about the age difference between the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. I think, right? It's something they were talking about it, and it was crazy. Like, like when you look at it, like, the Cruz of the world, 51 years old, the Rubio's 45, and then you look at the Democratic Party and it's like 70. The average age is like 60 plus or 70 and stuff like that. So it's very interesting that how the Democratic Party has not realized that and saying, the young movement, people are getting involved into politics and actually try to put younger politicians in there, regardless if they become corporate Democrat or not, but they still just not moving there. We still, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi of the world.
Yeah, so here's Kimberly's website, and definitely check her out at Kinverly Dicupe, and it's spelled D-I-C.
Dicupe.
See the R is silent.
No, it's Kimberly Dicupe.
Oh, Dicupe R-I.
Rhode Island.
There you go. Okay, so Kimberly Dicupe RI.com. All right, and you saying something, Kimberly?
Oh no, I was just saying that our Democratic politicians are very old and they suffer from some of the same issues that I was just talking about with the union leadership.
Cutting in and out.
The Democratic Party could also take advantage of these new young folks, right? Who
your audio's coming in and out a little bit.
Sanders campaign and are excited to organize. They could be, funneling that energy, using that energy, organize that energy. Hello.
We're like delayed.
Yeah, it's all right. Kimberly, maybe you could jump out and jump back in. I know you
Sorry,
did
I
that
can't
a couple
hear you.
times. I don't know if that's work.
But, okay.
When you jump out, jump back in, and then we'll wrap up this segment and then we'll move on. But as she jumps back in, I definitely want to encourage more progressives. It's not easy at all. We've seen Amani Oakley, we've seen Ali Delsimer. These are people who really have the people in their heart and want to do good things when they get into office. And I just always want to try to give them a platform and give our progressives support wherever we can. All right, Kimberly, we got you back. We're going to wrap up this segment, but let us know how we can find you, how we can support you as much as we can. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, but it seems like you were cutting off. I sound okay?
Yeah, you sound okay right now. You could just let us know how we can find you.
All right. Yeah. You can go on my website, KimberlyDicupeRI.com. I'm also on Twitter, Instagram, Instagram, Facebook, you can really find me on any social media. And I just created a TikTok. I said any videos, but I'll make sure to start posting some videos.
Then don't will follow you right away.
On every social media you could find me. I'm not sure. Should I list what the name?
You know what? We'll put in the description below. We'll
connect.
Yeah, the connection is still a little iffy.
Yeah,
it's all right.
Thank you so much. Type it in the chat, and we'll post it on the YouTube in the chat.
Yeah, you can also do that. Post it in the chat, but definitely already put in the chat your Twitter account. But all the other information definitely put in
follow
the
my
chat.
Twitter for some fiery takes.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so with that said, I'm gonna go to one video, and then we're gonna go to Carlito's rundown. All right, so let's do it.
Provided Ring doorbell footage to law enforcement nearly a dozen times this year without users' permission. Democratic Senator Ed Markey made a letter from the company public. It came in response to him questioning Ring's surveillance practices and ties with police. Ring has said it will not share customer information without consent, a warrant, or an emergency situation. The company says in 11 cases, it made a good faith determination there was imminent danger of death or serious injury, which required sharing the video without delay. Amazon provided.
All right.
This is so annoying because I got Ring everywhere. And I ran before Amazon bought. As soon as Amazon bought, I was like, oh no, what am I gonna do with all this stuff?
Yeah,
I know it's gonna be it. And then on the app, it tells you, it's like, hey, you want to opt in into the cops asking you if you want to provide video if something happens. And I was like, yeah, nah. They're turning with the neighbors app and everything. They're turning everybody into a damn snitch nowadays. So everything is about. I mean, there's some real stuff that happens. But any little thing is like that gunshots. Like it's 4th of July. What the hell?
Yeah. Now I was watching TYT actually, and they had Jake had a good point where he said that they have this system where they're just straight taking the footage that in the video talked about the 11 times that it happened, and that's all. It starts small, and then a couple of years later you come back and it's like 1,000. But there's a whole system for getting the footage. It's called getting a warrant. The warrant, you have to either go to a judge. There's a whole process. So the question is, why are they not using that formal system to get the footage? Are they going to use? They have the neighbor's ring, and then a cop is checking to see if his wife is going over to his neighbor's house. And then he didn't want to get the warrant to kind of show that this is not really a criminal reason to get the footage. So. This kind of reminds me real quick, and I'll pass it on. This kind of reminds me of when after 9/11, they started listening on the soldiers of overseas soldiers, and they were listening on them husband and wife having phone sex. That's not a reason to try to listen to the soldiers. So they abuse their power. Go ahead, Carlito. I think you were saying something.
But you said the cops abused their power. Shocker.
Shocker. Right. All right, so let's get into Carlito's rapid fire.
I don't know, but I find those ring thingies that have videos to them.
Let's go. Let's do it quick.
Yeah.
All right. First article from Fast Company. This is the older one, but it came up in my feed and different things that everything gun related nowadays. But this one says an AR-15 designed for children shocks even the most jaded gun control advocates. But basically, I just want in case for you to show the couple of pictures that they have, the way they're advertising. It's like, oh, look at a fun little AR, the gun of choice, little dancing bullets. And then the bottom, you keep going, you see the next picture. They call it it's like the junior JR, I think they call it. You see the little skull with the pink ponytails and a pacifier. We One Tactical is the name of the company. I mean, this is targeting children. I mean, I'm not even sure. This is like targeting the parents to give to children.
It's like a friendly Punisher. You know how the Punisher has a skull as his logo, and it's like if the Punisher had a kid and that was his costume, was to have this on his chest or something.
Yeah, but I mean, they put them in all nice and bright colors. Make it appealing to little kids. It's just ridiculous. It's just ridiculous.
No, I totally agree with you.
Talk about reading the room. With the climate change, not the climate change, the climate that we're in the world, and all these freaking shootings that we're having.
But this reminds me, Carlito and Bidon, about capitalism, right? They have to kind of find a bigger market share or more customers to sell to, right? So that's the whole point of corporations, to try to grow, whether it's traded on a stock market where every quarter they have to try to find growth. They're now targeting little kids. They're getting younger and younger, and they said it was only 2 pounds to carry. And then they said, they try to show that it has safety because it has a specific kind of safety on there to try to protect. But all it's doing is just introducing kids to guns early. So are we going to have more mass shootings? Like, it's absolutely crazy. What do you think, Kinverly?
Sorry.
Yeah, what you think about this story?
I mean, it's not surprising. This is just like what do you call it? Just an aggression of everything that's been going on.
It's unfortunate that also, like, every time there's a gun shooting, whether it's a mass shooting in a public area or whether it's a school shooting, right after that's when their sales go up because they're afraid that there's going to be gun reform and they're going to take away their guns. And so even then, it doesn't benefit us trying to get reform because the gun manufacturers are just going to lobby more and more. They're going to give them more money to lobby and to keep the status quo in place. Biden just passed gun reform, quote unquote gun reform, but we know it wasn't that strict. Go ahead, Carlito.
Yeah, man. All right, next article. Oh, the last one, I didn't mention it was Fast Company. Didn't mention it was by Talib Vizram. This next one is Newsweek. House Republicans all vote against neo-Nazi probe of military police by Ewan Palmer. So the House has approved an amendment to the National Defense Authorization Act to compel government officials to prepare a report on combating white supremacist and neo-Nazi activity in the police and military, despite every Republican voting against the measure. I mean, it's just supposed to be a study. We know there's white supremacists in there. To study it, see how they're going to combat him, root him out from the FBI, Homeland Security, law enforcement, different agencies, write a report about it. And Republicans all said, nah, we don't want to know. They wanted the report supposed to say, okay, the people that have been involved with white supremacy, that they kick them out, like give us some info on those numbers. Like, nah, we don't need to know that. There's no such thing. This Orwellian. This is a solution looking for a problem. There's no such thing. This is what they say.
I mean, of course they don't want that probe. They know themselves how racist these, police departments are. So they know, or they have an inkling that those numbers that are going to come out from this report are not going to be beneficial to their agenda. So why would they even let those numbers come out?
But that's what I'm saying. Like when we always talk about Democrats like being bad at politics, like I will hit every Republican on that for the people to say, right? Like these people are not even interested in this because you get people that say, "Well, yeah, we are not, we are totally against white supremacists," but you go and vote for those people. Like all this is ammunition for November when it comes, and they would not use it in any of their ads or any of their talking point, anything. They just vote no and then keep it moving, never mention about it, and business as usual.
Yeah, I think the Democrats, the corporate Democrats, they're afraid because they don't want to appear like they're attacking like rural white people or. But I'm saying, just because you're white doesn't mean you're racist or a neo-Nazi. Just be hard on the ones that are. Be done. But they don't want to alienate them because they know. I mean, they know it's a lot of them. And then the Republicans, they know that's their base. So they don't want to know about that. Or they don't want other people to know about that.
100%. All right, we got 5 minutes left, so we got.
All right. So real quick, I'm just going to point you guys. Go to the Guardian. Search for the Uber files. This guy that used to work for Uber basically leaked thousands and thousands of documents. His name is Mark McGann. He said he decided to speak out about firm to right some fundamental wrongs. And they did a study, the Guardian and some other news agencies compiled through all the paperwork. I mean, Uber, especially on their, I forgot the guy's name, the Kalashnik or whatever. I think the last guy, that was Travis something. It was horrible when there were violence going on, when Uber was trying to go into France and the cabbies over there were like protesting and there was violence. And he said like, well, there's violence that pretty much guarantees that we're going to win. So whatever, let them go over there. Like let them, the Uber drivers join in. He didn't care if they got hurt. Lobbying Biden before when he was VP, lobbying everybody. And even saying like for Biden, it's like, yeah, if he's late, that's he has to. That's less time he has for me. Less time I'm going to spend with him. That's how important he thought he was. But all types of corruption, breaking laws. They admitted themselves on different emails and things like, yeah, we just criminals. We're just doing criminal stuff. But they were breaking all types of laws to get into different markets, and they were breaking the local rules. And they just basically believe it's better to ask for forgiveness and permission. So go to find the Uber files, and there's going to be a whole lot of stories in there about Uber and all the crap they were doing it.
Yeah, it looks like they could do another dramatization of another season off of these files because I know they got the show.
They said how the French president, before he was French president, was lobbying for Uber and all that.
I'll put the link in the chat if I can.
All right, I got it there.
Oh, you got it? Appreciate it, my man.
There it goes.
Yeah, so as we wrap up the show with 2 minutes left, I want to thank Kinverly for coming through and telling us about your campaign. I'm looking forward to September and hearing
a little bit on this.
Oh, sorry. Sure. Go ahead, please.
Oh, sorry, guys, but yeah, moving so slow. Sorry for my connection, but as the Uber situation, I mean, I would say invested in a lot of what like Amazon's invested in, which is giving people the idea that if you work for them, then you are your own boss, right? And you can make the decisions. But we know that's not true. If they put limits on, what you can do, ultimately, you have to follow those limits. Like, for example, Amazon tells their contractors, right? Especially contractors who drive for them, right? You can be your own boss, you can set your own hours, but they have rules around how much you can pay your employees as a contractor, right? If you try to pay your employees too much, Amazon will cancel your contract out. Ultimately, it's the illusion of freedom and that you have a choice when already you have to adhere to a certain level of rules that you didn't write. The corporation did. But, because you get to set your own hours, people get distracted. By that because most of the jobs don't allow you to set your own hours. You have to go in from this time to this time. But it's very similar to those jobs in the end. Have a boss. if that boss gets angry at you, you don't follow the rules and the way that they want you to,
Unfortunately, Kimberly,
you're going to be
your mic is cutting in and out.
fired.
So right at the end, it's like it happened. At least we got a good bulk of the show with you,
And not only
with
that,
good audio.
as a contractor, you often
Yeah,
take
but it's all good.
Like
all
the audio
the
was like way later.
what do you call it, like
Yeah,
the
it's
responsibilities.
super
If your
delayed.
car breaks
Now
down,
we hear
so
you
if
now.
things go bad for you,
But
the company
Carlito, you had one more
as well.
right?
Yeah, the last story, not much time on it. Basically, this is one example. Rebecca Shabbat, NBC News, says House passes bipartisan bill to create after shooter alert system. So when I looked up the story, the majority of the headlines was bipartisan bill for active shooter alert system, and it's basically the one giving money to create this active shooter alert system in the state. So when something happens, it goes out to all the relevant agencies and they can coordinate faster, right? So bipartisan bill. So case, if you just show the gov track, the voting it for the bill, I mean it was 259 and 162 bipartisan, in that only 44 out of 208 Republicans voted for it. I mean, that's like 20% voted for it, and they call it bipartisan when only one Democrat didn't vote for it. I mean, how do you call it bipartisan when the headline should be 80% of Republicans want our kids to die, pretty much.
Yeah.
That's what it should be. They don't even care, and they call it bipartisan. The news is just complicit in feeding us crap about bipartisanship.
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah,
That's what I was saying, John. That I think this is what's going on in West Virginia too. I think that's part of the problem. But go ahead. It looked like you was going to say something.
Yeah, but again, like this is also like the news too. But again, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, and Democratic leadership sits there and says, "We got a bipartisan bill done." Those every Democrat that you talked about, we have a bipartisan bill. Biden, we have a bipartisan bill, and they should also be driving that narrative that says, you know what, only 44 Republican voted for this. So we have some Republican, we have 20% Republican vote. But no, they call it bipartisan themselves. So again, I'm not defending corporate media because we know the narrative is there, but like also the Democratic Party doesn't do their job, because I guarantee you it was the other way around. The Republican will be driving that narrative saying this bill was only supported by 20% of the Democrats.
Yeah. Now there's benefits sometimes in calling bills bipartisan just so you could put it out there. Hey, this is a bipartisan bill. We need to pass it, and make it seem like, yeah, this is great. We're all for it. These guys are opposing it when it's bipartisan. So what's the problem? But in other cases, you got to hammer these people when you want to pass things, and you see that 80% of Republicans are voting against something that everybody wants. You got to hammer them.
Yeah, 100%. John, you have one last thing to say? Or you good? Okay, let me just good. All right, thank you so much. I just want to shout out Nancy Bancher, Deborah B, PJ Krish, Akibash Akita, Zachary Ruslan, and Shanika Thompson. Thank you so much for being Patreons. Kimberly, thank you so much for coming on the show. Unfortunately, we had the audio issues, but man, we love having you on, and I look forward. Anytime you want to come on, let us know. We definitely have you on the show, and I'm looking forward to September, and hopefully we could call you State Representative Dicupe. All right.
Shout out to the chat.
Yeah, shout out to the chat, everybody in the chat. Much love to you all. I already gave a shout out. Let's go around the horn with any last words. John.
Much happy Monday.
All right. Badone.
Let's get it.
Carlito.
Yo, Call of Duty almost done. NBA almost here. Let's go.
Yeah. So much love to Carlito. I think this might be. You want to say the announcement, Carlito?
Hiatus time. It's gonna be a little hiatus.
All right. So Carlito's going on hiatus. So we're gonna probably take a hiatus from the Carlitos rundown and do a lot of video reactions. But we're definitely gonna be looking forward to having you guys on the show as usual and chatting it up. Big Pun was in here this week, but hopefully we'll have him back next week. Kimberly, thank you so much again. Everybody could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and I appreciate that. Much love to y'all. Have a great week. Peace.
Bye, guys.